Fun. All right, thank you for being here. We welcome you to our regular council meeting on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. And we would like to welcome all those who are watching via YouTube also, and welcome them to the meeting. So we will start with an opening with Councilman Nolan Gunnell.
Prior to my comments in the form of a prayer, I just want to have some discussion. Today is a very important day in our lives as citizens of America, and I think we're granted that right by the fact of our veterans, whom we should celebrate this Friday. I spent the last couple of weeks in September and October in France touring World War II sites. My father was in the Battle of the Bulge. I didn't know much about his fights, but I hired some historians and went over there and saw where he fought in the Battle of the Bulge and all of those other things. I came home with a deep, deep, deep appreciation for those men in World War II and what they sacrificed for us. I hope we as citizens remember them, all the other wars, and those who are serving currently, and the honor which they bring to this country and the privileges which we have. And part of that privilege is the election which we get to participate in. I know there's a lot of antagonism about the election and this and that, but it is a right, and I believe it is a right which many people have died and fought for so that we can obtain and use that right. So I just mention that and ask you to remember those, and if you see a veteran, thank them. And I will now say a prayer. Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this day as we give thanks for living in this great country, the freedoms which we partake and have at our use, and we pray, Heavenly Father, that we will not take them for granted, that we'll remember those who have sacrificed so hard that we can have these privileges and rights. We pray this night that we will do our roles in the capacity which we have been elected into and do it in a manner that is pleasing to our constituents. We're grateful for this country. We're grateful for the freedom which we enjoy and all of those many blessings which we have. We ask these things and give thanks in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Now if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Nolan Gunnell. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Madam Chair, I need to amend the agenda.
Okay.
Item 6B, Consolidation of Public Defender Office Update, Mike McGinnis. Mike asked to be moved to our next agenda.
Okay.
We want some more time to get that finalized, that information. And I was actually supposed to tell you guys to take him off and forgot. So
Okay.
I will move to amend the agenda by removing that item.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we remove item 6B until our next meeting. It's a consolidation of public defender office update by Mike McGinnis. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And then I move to amend, I'm sorry, I move
Go
to
ahead.
approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. And do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. All right. Review and approval of minutes. I'm not seeing all of these minutes on there. I only saw a couple of them, so I guess we can look at a couple of them. We know that the clerk's office is very busy at this time of the year, so let's take a look and see. Has anybody had a chance to review those that are on there?
There were two of the special breakfast meeting we had with the legislators was on there, and then the also the other special council meeting we just had.
Okay.
Madam, oh, go ahead.
And unless there are some
I have some corrections.
corrections, okay.
Okay, very good.
Madam Chair, on the September 30th meeting, I move to add to the minutes the scope of work document that we have presented at that meeting to the minutes.
Okay.
Good catch. I missed that.
And do you want me to make the other one?
Yeah, go ahead.
And then on the October 15th meeting, I would move to add other attendance. Casey Snyder was also there and was left off. And then I thought it was important that we had 2 documents that day submitted by the executive. So I would like to add the wording on number 2. Executive Zook presented 2 lists of priorities, one titled 2023 Legislative Session Cache County Priorities, and the other titled Northern Utah Chamber Coalition 2023 Legislative Priorities version 10/12/22, and that those documents be included in the minutes, and I have them and can provide them to Janine.
Okay, awesome. All right. We have a motion.
I
Those
move
two.
that we approve those minutes with the additions as outlined by Gina.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we add or amend the minutes on September 30th by adding the scope of work, and the minutes for October 15th as adding Casey Snyder as an attendee at the meeting, and 2 documents that were submitted by Executive Zook.
And the wording.
And the wording, okay, and the wording. Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain on September 30th and 15th as I was not here. but I'm
Okay, good, thank
okay
you.
on the others.
All right, thanks. And as I said, we'll have to move those other approval of the minutes until next time, and hopefully we'll get those. Okay, very good. Report, Mr. Anderson, you're here for Executive Zook. Do you have anything you'd like to report?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, items of special interest here. Yeah, Mr. Gilbert. Oh, okay. Or?
Mayor Cox.
Mayor Cox, okay. You're going to discuss the Western Arterial Update and Prioritization Request.
Right, thank you. And
You're welcome, thank you.
appreciate your comments on veterans, having a father and a son, both as veterans.
Thank you.
I'm Mayor Cox from Hyde Park City, but I'm also the chair for the Cache Metropolitan, the CMPO. And Todd Butler is the vice chair. Jeff Gilbert, as you know, the director, and we've also got Matt Phillips from Cache County Public Works. What we're here to try and accomplish is the prioritization for the Western Arterial. This is something that has been spoken of for a long time. I even spoke with our city engineer today about it, who's younger than me, but he's 50, but they spoke about it in their government high school class.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
It's been spoken about for a long time. It's time we move that ball down the field. It's time that we do that. There's not a better time than what we have with the good representatives down at the House in Salt Lake, Senator Wilson, the positions. This is time that we move this, and we're looking to try and get your support, knowing that the Cache County Council has a consultant. This is the time that we need to move on an environmental study, and that's what we're here to talk to you about. So I'm gonna turn it over to the people that do the heavy lifting, the ones that have the real jobs. So Matt.
Thank you, Mayor.
As Mayor Cox said, this is kind of a team effort, so Madam Chair, thank you for the time. I'm here just to kind of reinforce how important this is for Cache County, and again, it's been mentioned that it's been here, we've been talking about it for a long time, 20-plus years in the works. It's been on a lot of planning documents. It's been, I was hoping Councilman Gordon would be here so he could see if he's previously heard about it in other meetings, but it's been talked about for a long time. It shows up on CMPO, COG, it's going to show up on the countywide transportation master plan. We hear lots of different terms. We hear West Cache Corridor, we hear Western Arterial, we hear Western Bypass. They're all the same. It's just we need something to the west side of town. So as 20 years ago, and Jeff can speak to it if he does, is I think we did get some money for it, but it was reallocated. And it's probably because we didn't follow the UDOT process. So what we've kind of done is made sure that we're following the UDOT process. The first slide in this talked about a kickoff meeting that we had with UDOT, and they've actually hired a consultant, Avenue consultant, and they're going to study this area. So that's the very first kind of progression through this whole process is one, get a study done. And so basically the road goes from 8991 at 3200 South all the way to Highway 218, which is the road that goes from Smithfield to Amalga. So it's a very wide, a very long corridor study. And although we do show it on maps, they're not just limiting it to the map area. They're just kind of looking at this whole area to the west side of Logan, and the majority of that land is in Cache County. So that's why it's important to us. We want to get ahead of the curve, and UDOT's processes take quite a while.
Yeah.
So if we're waiting, we're going to be behind the 8 ball of, the traffic's going to be here. So we want to get ahead of the study. We want to make sure, ahead of the process, make sure we're on UDOT's list. And as they've mentioned, the next kind of phase for that is an environmental study. But I want you guys to have some background information on what we're doing and kind of the area that we're studying it so that you guys can speak of it. And you're going to probably have opportunities to push this, to prioritize it. However the council sees fit to that be, whether that be in a legislative type thing, whether it be in a meeting. We just need any support you guys can give us to help us get the $3 million+ to do an environmental study. So they kicked off the meeting, and just so you guys are aware, there will be some stakeholder input. So there probably will be some opportunities for the council to participate in some meetings. We're going to be looking at Logan City, the other communities, different organizations, transit, bikes, pedestrian, all those things will get an opportunity to put in their input into what is the purpose of this corridor? What are the needs? Those are the kind of things. So if I keep moving forward, there's just a long list of questions that we're hoping to answer with the study. What's it for? Where's it going? How far east? What's the speed? How big it should be? We're going to look at functional classifications. We're going to look at future traffic. We're going to look at crashes. We're going to look at utilities and railroads. Where's the floodplain, And probably most importantly is what is the future land growth? Where do we need this road? So just a little background. Again, Jeff can probably speak more towards the process of how we get this programmed into UDOT, how long that might take, some tips and tricks for you guys of who to talk to, where to push it. But any support you guys can give the county and Cache County as a whole would be great. So any questions for me?
Matt, can I ask
Yeah.
a couple questions?
Sure.
You said that we're wanting to do a $3 million study on this thing, right? Is that roughly what it is?
Yep, that's an estimate that Jeff put together on an environmental study. So this is kind of a planning one to bring all that together and try to identify a purpose and a need. Then the environmental study would be, is there any?
So there's 2 studies going on. One that's ongoing right now, and then we're looking for the assistance to support in getting the environmental.
The environmental one, Commission, is for, if we can't pick an alignment until we've done, why do we have this road? What's it for? Then you would go to an environmental phase to try to turn out, okay, maybe we go this way, we're going to avoid some environmentally sensitive lands, and we're going to go this way. And then that's where you get into your alternates of maybe this corridor, what's the pluses and minuses, what's this corridor? So that's the next study.
Okay. And I guess the reason I was asking that, you mentioned that UDOT takes a while before they award money. I mean, generally when UDOT awards road fees, and Jeff, you'd probably know this better than anybody else. That's years, if not decades, of planning before UDOT awards money for roads, correct? I mean, we're not just gonna walk into UDOT next month and say, hey, give us 70 million bucks.
Yeah, these things move at a glacial pace with UDOT. And so really, I mean, we need to start beating the drum now. I will tell you though, it's a good sign that UDOT has carved off money and kicked off this planning phase. Because they know once they do that, that raises expectations and, you know, it's on a trajectory somewhere. And, you know, the environmental money, the construction dollars are big dollars. And that's gonna be a heavy lift and it's gonna take a long while. The environmental dollars, though, to get that rolling is not such a big lift, and UDOT can find this in loose change in their couches, in their waiting rooms. I'm being facetious, but, you know, if it's a priority, they can find that kind of money to kind of get it rolling. But the construction dollars are, yeah, it's gonna take a while. I will note, though, you know, this isn't, we kind of do planning where we work with the other agencies in the state and look at kind of what's our expected revenue. And this isn't out of the realm of what one could argue is our fair share. And I think we need to think out in terms of other places like St. George and their Southern Parkway, or Wasatch Front and Mountain View Corridor. I mean, this is the type of thing we need to accommodate growth, and we shouldn't be shy of kind of making that clear to UDOT and the legislature and advocating for that. But it's going to be a long haul. It's a lot of dollars for the construction. But, you know, until we figure out an alignment, it just puts us in a pickle, because Matt's having to make decisions on development, Logan City is, and if we don't know an alignment, you know, you can try. We have a line on a map, which is kind of our best guess, but we know that it has to go through all these environmental processes, so it's not settled till then. And so to be in limbo just, it's puts us all in a bad spot. That's why we need to get it to the point where we have a firm alignment. Then we can start doing corridor preservation and really get deliberate about it.
Well, thank you for that. I just wanted to ask those two questions so that I can let y'all know how much we appreciate the work that y'all have done over the years, and what it takes to get road funding. We've been talking a lot about road funding, but I think you need to get the credit, and the Mayor's Association and CMPO and Matt, you need to get the credit for what you've done, put roads into this community, and we appreciate your efforts. And I don't want to speak for the rest of the council.
I'm with
but
you.
We should support you 100% for the work that's gone on for decades and continues to go on. So thank you very much.
We appreciate that, and I would pass any thanks I get right to Jeff, so, because I haven't been here long enough, so.
Yes, I
Okay.
just want to make sure that was clearly stated.
Question.
Yeah.
The dark blue, is that your proposed route only because the green is the sensitive areas, and that's why it's hanging so much closer to 10th West? Is that it?
The best answer to that question is that we had to draw a line on a map, and so that dark blue is the line that's been on the map. But that's why the study area is bigger, because we kind of need to go.
Anywhere proposed in the study area, I'm just wondering if that dark blue meant that was your hopes or best point or what?
That's just the future land, just kind of right now, that's agricultural's green, some of it's not. So that's just one of the many maps, Nolan. You know, here's like your floodplain, so they're looking at the red spot, right? Is we're gonna run into some kind of hurdle when we're trying to cross a whole bunch of floodplain. So again, right now, we need to kind of ignore the line on the map and let the studies and the environmental kind of define that, so.
So you're looking at the area in the dotted.
Correct.
square, Not necessarily the line that looks like a road.
That's
with
correct,
letters.
yes. Although the line in blue, the darker blue, is the one that you're gonna see on a CMPO map, you're gonna see it on a Cache County master plan map, but we had to draw a line somewhere, and that's the line that's been drawn.
It's adjustable.
Yes, that's what this process will do is actually put that, take our line on a map and actually define it, then we can start going to do corridor preservation, we can start doing development, stuff like that. But right now, it's just a guess. There's some places, to be honest, through Logan that they've already done some corridor preservation, so it's probably going to be close as we go through Logan, but out through the county, it's pretty much wide open.
Okay,
So
thank
we
you.
need to talk with Lincoln Hill or get a
Yes,
message to
yeah.
them that we need Carrie to go to bat on this and see what we
right.
can get done.
Okay, from what I understood from you, Jeff, ASAP, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you are aware, things with the legislature move right now, and so the sooner we can kind of get that on the radar.
Okay,
I mean, it's not just the consultant, but it's, just any interaction. I mean, we have Rhonda Menlove, who is the commissioner for UDOT, for our area, and she's a great resource and really a strong advocate. So I think just as opportunities come up to remind UDOT, I mean, this is gonna have to be a long-term kind of thing, is what we're looking for in addition to anything we can do with the consultant priorities for the legislature this year.
so would you prefer a meeting with them right off the start, or do you want me to contact them to contact you, or how do you want to handle this?
I think either way would work. If you want to just task us out to meet with them, we can kind of work that out, or if you want to be involved in that, that's perfectly fine too. Does that sound good, Mayor?
I think we ask them and then just talk to Lincoln Hill. So
Okay.
do you
Yeah,
need
that's
any
what I think,
official
just have them
action
talk.
from us, or do you want us to just say, please go ahead and keep talking to them and then have us, have
I'll
Barbara work with
notify,
Lincoln Hill?
yeah.
That's what I think, from the consultant's perspective, they would probably want to have something from you saying, point of contacts. We got Matt and Jeff, point of contacts.
Okay.
CMPO, we'll coordinate and work together.
Okay.
I'll tell you that the CMPO as a whole, they are all for it. We know you can't afford it. We can't afford it. We need the help that this is gonna do, so.
Awesome.
That's,
Okay,
so if you would get a hold of Lincoln.
I will. I'll get hold of Carrie Gibson and get the ball rolling on this. Okay,
Fantastic.
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, very good.
Perhaps we can drive on it before.
Before we're gone, huh? Not ride on
I'll
it.
have my funeral procession.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm actually going to the meeting to talk about cemetery plots, so I'm gonna hold y'all to this.
It's a little freaky.
yeah, really. All right, looks like next we have a department report on the fairgrounds/event center from Bart Esplin. Thank you, Bart.
Well, thank you for letting me present to you tonight and share a few highlights with what's been going on at the fairgrounds over the last year. So just to bring everyone up to speed, I know there may be some of our new council members here that will be taking over pretty soon. So just to bring you up to speed on what we do at the fairgrounds and what we have down there. So we currently have, excuse me, 6 full-time positions down there and 5 seasonal positions. We sit on about 50 acres of property down there. On that 50 acres, we have about 67,000 square feet of enclosed building space, 90,000 square feet of equestrian arena space, 4 independent concessions buildings, 4 standalone public restrooms, 2 30-stall horse boarding barns, and as well as many livestock pens and other buildings and a maintenance shop. Our duties typically include maintaining the landscaping in the buildings, making sure that the events are taken care of, set up, tear down, everything to make our customers' events successful that we can do. Cleaning up the park, maintaining horse facilities, including the stalls in the arenas, trimming the trees, snow removal, building equipment repairs, the list goes on and on, to keep 50 acres going with miles and miles of sprinkler pipe and hundreds of sprinkler heads and everything that goes into it. It's a pretty good undertaking. So the mission of the fairgrounds, I just want to share this with you. The mission of the Cache County Fairgrounds is to support community economic vitality, health and well-being, education, tourism, and enhance overall quality of life. And I think with the facilities that we have down there, and the business that we see down there, that I think we do a really good job at trying to do that. So, what have we been working on over the last year? You have this information in your packet. This has been a pretty good undertaking. So we have down at the fairgrounds over 300 trees. Some say 400. I haven't counted them all. But you know, one of the most commented thing about our county fairgrounds, and I hear this from people from all over the country, is the amount of trees, the shade, the water, and the grass. And you know, we currently have our first string team in. I probably said this to you before. We have our first string team in the game right now, but we don't have a second string. So what we're trying to do with this tree assessment and this plan is to come up with a way that we can bring up our second string team so we have somebody to take their place. You know, many of the trees that we have at the fairgrounds are willows, poplars, Siberian elms, all really considered trash trees. The person that named it Willow Park, I would like to choke. It should be named Oak Park or Sycamore Park or something like that. It would make my job much easier. But that's not the case. So in this assessment or plan, it is a pretty aggressive timeline. I don't see us following that timeline. Nobody wants to see the fairgrounds look like the Guinevere Malibu campground up the canyon right now.
Right.
So strategically, we will be taking out trees, planting more trees. This is something that I envision taking many decades, you know, 50 plus years. Trees, especially good trees, strong, healthy trees, don't grow fast. So, you know, we will judiciously and carefully work this plan through. And this plan really needs to be redone about every 10 or so years. You know, new hazards appear, conditions change. So that's one of the items we've been working on. The next one you guys are aware of as well. It's with your help with the ordinance passed earlier this year that we are soon to be able to allow our patrons to have alcohol at the fairgrounds. Now, before we allow this, I wanted to have a good, solid policy for our customers to follow. And you also have the policy in your packet. I am ready to go with this. What I need from the council, and we can do this at another time, because this wasn't really the meeting to do this, is to review this policy with you. And if there's any changes that need to be made, we can make those and then implement it, and we're off and running with it. So.
Bart, when I read through this, I think it's well written and well thought out. I don't really have any specific issues with it. I presume the attorney's office has reviewed this.
I haven't personally.
So John and I and Visitors Bureau and the Event Center staff all worked together on this. It has met John's approval, so it is really ready to go based on approval by the council. So
I read through it too, Carl, and I think it looks good unless somebody else has.
I had a question.
okay.
So you're talking, you get a bartender and he has to be licensed. Does the bartender monitor how many drinks, or is there a drink limit put on those, or how does that go from the standpoint of being
Yes.
drunk or liability?
Very good question. So the bartender, part of their duty, and it's mandated by the state, is they are to monitor the number of drinks that their patrons are having, and kind of gauge the inebriation status of their customers. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to go with requiring a bartender. So that plus it shares, or they take the brunt of the liability.
So I noticed that if you have 200 or more, you have one security guard or more. How many bartenders per participants? Is there a ratio to that too, or do you know?
No, we haven't, I don't know that. We haven't really set that number. Typically, I think, you show up to an event and not everybody at that event is drinking alcohol even. So I would expect most events to be able to deal with it with one bartender.
Okay.
Great question, though. Other questions on that?
I thought it looked really good and appreciate the work that went into it. Well thought out.
Thank you.
All right. So you're asking if the council will approve this and
Yeah, if you
move
want,
on?
if you guys are good with it tonight, we can approve it and I'll move on with it. But if you want to wait and we can talk about it another time, I'm good with that as well.
Don't we have to have legal stamp on it, or is that there with John already, or what?
Well, if John's approved it, I think that's going to cover that. I'm comfortable if the council doesn't have any major objections to that, to rely on John's input for this measure, where it's been thought out. I give it my approval if it's been looked at by my office already.
Okay. What's the feelings of the council?
Do we need to have it specifically on the agenda to approve it, or are we good to just approve it under the department or committee report?
Well, it isn't a resolution or an ordinance. It's a policy.
Policy.
John, when John and I talked about this, it was his opinion that it wasn't something that had to come before the council, but we wanted to bring it to you to keep you in the loop, so you were aware of it. So I don't know if it's something that really requires a vote or just a nod. I don't know.
Jane, would you be more comfortable reviewing it first, where you're now in that position, or what's your feelings?
I think we can, where it is just a policy and it's not going into our personnel policy as a county guideline, this is going to be a building guideline for the fairgrounds. I don't think it needs to be approved. I'll review it, and if I see anything glaring, I can talk and we can bring it back to the council. But I don't think we necessarily need to put that off. I think it's better to have it implemented now and have something in place so we can move forward with the fairgrounds having that guidance.
Okay. Okay. Council?
Do we need a formal motion?
Yeah.
It's just a policy. I don't think there needs to be a motion. I think that you can just, as a body, let him know that you're okay with that policy. It's nothing you're actually passing.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought this to us so we could look at it. Thank you,
Yeah,
Art.
thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Okay, as a council,
Thumbs up.
okay, we're giving you a nod. Okay.
Perfect. Thank
Art.
you. All
Thank
right, let's
you.
move on. I'm going to keep this short. So the other thing we've been working on, and this is going to come to fruition here really quickly, I expect to see this Q1 of next year, maybe even January, first part of the year, is our master plan. So we've hired a landscape architect working on his master's thesis, and this is his master's thesis. This is just kind of some of the highlights from that master plan. It's kind of hard to see, but that top slide depicts a amphitheater that would be built where my office currently sits, or the maintenance office. The second picture, again, I apologize, I didn't realize how hard these are going to be to see, but that represents, obviously it's the event center, but taking out all the grass that's in front of the event center and putting in a beautiful master pollinator garden, working with the master gardeners and USU Extension, and probably some funding through Extension, some grants that we can accomplish that. And then the bottom slide is some parking improvements that we've hoped to see down in the south end where we filled up that stormwater pond, and I've got another slide of that area we're gonna see here in just a second. So,
So Bart,
Yes.
am I looking at this, it almost looks like trailers, or would you
So-
use that for?
yeah, so there is some camping spaces out there. We do allow some camping during the county fair specifically, but the Cruise Inn utilizes some of that area for camping as well, just because they're using all the other space for showing their cars, so.
Okay.
Yeah, great question though. And you'll see some trailers, I think on this next slide. Nope, next one after this. So, an update on kind of some of the other RAPS projects that we've been able to get completed or are still kind of in process. But if you're at the rodeo, you may have noticed the new reader board, replay board down in the southeast corner of the rodeo arena. That was paid for with RAPS money, this year's RAPS money. And we've continued to build out of our Wi-Fi at the fairgrounds, so there's more Wi-Fi spots throughout the fairgrounds that people are able to get on and utilize those. The big one though, probably the most noticeable one, excuse me, is the filling of the stormwater pond. I couldn't find a satellite photo of that or an aerial photo of that area after we took out the racetrack, but before the pond is filled. So that one goes back probably 8 or 10 years. But you can see in that top slide, there's a big area in the middle that doesn't have any parking in it. And the lower slide was some drone pictures that we took this year and how much better we're able to utilize all that space. So, you know, probably 100 plus more cars that we're able to park in there. So I think that's something that everybody will appreciate as parking gets tougher and tougher. Just to highlight a couple events, you know, of course we have the county fair and everybody's familiar with a lot of the other events that we have down there, Summerfest, MS 150, bike tour, the car show. We've also picked up some new and not so new ones. Vintage Market Days has been with us for a while. The Cheese and Dairy Festival, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, is really taken off and has gotten big. A couple events that I want to highlight though, the National Insulator Association. So before we even broke ground on the event center, we was approached by the National Insulator Association folks wanting to do their 2020 show in Logan, Utah. We had it booked, everything was progressing nicely, and then we all know what happened early in 2020. All the events kind of went out the window. That is something that they have to bid on every so many years, and it's East Coast, West Coast type of thing. So we're excited to be able to welcome them back in June of 23, so this next year. That's a big deal. There's people that come from all over the country to bring their insulators and trade and swap and show. So excited to have them. Also new to us this year, we just booked this a couple weeks ago, is the Apex Sheep and Goat Show and Sale. That has previously been in Spanish Fork. They outgrew that. Looking for space to expand. I expect them to be here for many, many years. In Spanish Fork last year, they booked over 50 motel rooms. So expecting hundreds of people, and this is televised or broadcast across the country for online bidding and all that stuff. So we're really excited to have them coming here this year, and hopefully for many years to come.
What's Divvy Up?
So Divvy Up is a children's clothing consignment sale. They are the first group that has told us we need to build another building. They have continued, so they started at the fairgrounds 2005, 2008, somewhere in there, in some of the older buildings. And they take these children's clothing items, toys, cribs, anything related to raising children, take them in on consignment, sell them, and then at the end of their sale, whatever's left, what people don't come and pick up, then they donate to the DI. So it's a really big event. And this year, they've been bursting at the seams. They do this twice a year. They've been bursting at the seams. This year, they had 10,000 items more than they had at the previous show. So they almost, are asking for us to build a second floor so they can. But it's a really neat event, and lots of people take advantage of that. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So upcoming projects. A couple of the RAPS awards from the council this year. One was a cell phone booster that will help in the event center. Also help with some of the other buildings that we have down there. Hope to begin that work just after the first of the year. Also related to the event center, some AV improvements, including bigger TVs in the function rooms. They're sometimes hard to see. And some deadening in the walls. If you've been in the arena part of that building for any kind of event, it's really hard to hear. And it's been determined that that's just because it's a big echo chamber in there. Mm-hmm. So taking care of some of that. The other thing I know Double T Bart Nilsson has mentioned in his presentation last week was the point-to-point network that he's working on. And one of those towers is going to be at the fairgrounds. We're going to replace one of the light towers in the rodeo arena with one of these towers that's twice as tall. One of the things that's going to require us to do is replace the lights on that tower, which is something that I'm going to hopefully get in the RAPS cycle this next year anyway. But to turn the lights on in that rodeo arena, just to turn them on one time for 15 minutes in a month is about $500. Now that goes down the more you use them over that month cycle because of demand charges, but LEDs far more efficient, instant on, if the power goes out, the current lights that we have, if they go out, you're 20 minutes waiting for them to cool off before you can turn them on. So kind of a safety thing as well. But those are kind of the three things that we'll be working on this spring. Hopefully we can get them all done before the busy season hits in May or so. Okay, so that really concludes what I have. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer for you?
What, there's always been a concern for wanting to expand the fairground, the size of it, and unfortunately we had somehow the ball got dropped and we didn't have the opportunity to trade land with the National Guard and get the armory. And do you know if there's any possibility of that coming to fruition again?
I'm still hopeful. I think it's in the National Guard's court right now to try and come up with a piece of land that they would be interested in moving to. I do know that they still would like to move. That's not an ideal location for them. So I think that's where we're at right now, is waiting for them to come up with a piece of land. I'm not involved in that part of it, but my understanding is that's kind of where we're at with that. But that is a good question, or a good point. We are, as population continues to grow, if we're anticipating doubling our population in the next 60 years or so, 50 acres that we're on is not going to cut it. The armory sits on 5 acres. I'm not sure that adds a whole bunch to it. It does add some. I think part of our master plan may be to consider, another location at some point, years down the road. I mean, nobody wants to push that because it's hard to recreate what we have. But I think we would be wise to at least consider and look at in the future, coming up with several hundred acres that we could purchase and start developing into a park of some sort with a future potential of doing something like that. Well, that was done in late 90s, early 2000s, when they bought the property in North Logan, and then, you know, built a nice arena and did some stuff there. So plans don't always work, but they don't work at all if you don't have one. So good question, though.
Did I hear rumor, or maybe I'm wrong, but some talk of changing the waterway or enforcing it? Where are we at on that? I like the way it is.
Yeah, that's a rumor for sure. And I think that the irrigation companies, local irrigation companies, will be pushing that way. It seems like across countywide, you're seeing irrigation canals piped. When they put out that information, they were talking about a pressurized system, which I anticipate Logan probably going to some kind of pressurized system at some point. I know that they're starting to pipe some of the areas on the island from the Crockett diversion down to a certain point. We believe that we have enough water rights that we could maintain some water in some kind of water feature. It may not be exactly what we have, but we believe we'd still be able to do that. That's a great point, though. You know, that's one of those highlights to coming to the Cache County Fairgrounds.
It is.
And during the county fair, you see kids and kids and kids playing in the water all day, every day. So, great. Yep.
Well, I don't necessarily have a question, but I just wanted to take just a second to let the council and everybody here know the last 4 years I've had the honor to learn from and work with Bart. And the work that he has done over the years to keep that just jewel of the community going. His team, the Fairgrounds Advisory Board, Craig Butters putting together the Cheese and Dairy Festival, all the things that we've done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the opportunity to learn from you.
I appreciate the support that I get from you guys.
I'm glad you're going to be here. So whoever gets to take my place and go on the fairgrounds, that's going to be pretty fun. And
Okay.
And now I get to call myself a tree hugger because I like that tree plan too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bart.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. All right. Is it close enough to be 6:00 PM estimated, or do we need to wait on the public hearing?
I think we should wait
Okay,
10 minutes.
very good. All right, pending action will depend on, shall we go down to pending action?
Do 11D?
Pardon me?
11D?
11D, we can do 11D, property tax hardship requests. Diana, if you'd like to please come up, that'd be great.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
So I believe you have 6 hardships in front of you. 4, we're recommending approval, and there's 2 that we are not.
And I had a question for you.
I'm ready.
Okay, on a parcel, the last 4 digits are 0023, so that's the second one, with one individual. Did your office request more information on
I
that?
absolutely did. I had a phone call with him. He stuck to his guns and said he was working, you know, that he was going to school, that he was taking out a HELOC. If you'll note on his application, he indicated 0. We, in a review of the bank statements, we saw it was closer to at least $7,600 that were deposited, which were unexplained. Also, if they're claiming that it's a hardship because they have all these expenses, he didn't really provide those either.
Okay. That's what
So
I wondered
I
about.
brought it before you with what I had, saying that we can't recommend because there's a concern that we haven't received full financial disclosure and that he's failed to provide proof of the expenditures. So we can't come to a positive recommendation on this one.
And that being said, on the last one, 0060, there was some indication that that individual had been attempting to get a medical statement.
Oh, yes, thanks. So subsequent to the applications being submitted to the council, she did bring me a letter from her doctor, and it substantiates everything that she claimed.
Oh, perfect.
Awesome.
I just wanted to
And
be
I have
fair.
that.
If we require for one, we gotta require for another, so.
Right. Yes. It was just that she supported it with her medical evidence.
So would it be appropriate then to make a motion to approve the 4, I think there's 4, right? At the percentage that was recommended by the auditor's office?
And just so I'm clear, the 4, what are the 4 numbers that were?
0010 at 14%,
Okay,
0002 at 44%, 0015 at 50%, and 0060, and I forgot to write the percent.
that's fine, okay. That's the last one.
8%.
Okay, yeah, okay. Very good. We have a motion?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we do approve these property tax hardships on the 4 requests. All in agreement? Or aye? Any opposed? Okay,
And then I'll make a motion that we deny 0023 and 0009, lots of numbers. As recommended by
Okay.
the auditor's office.
okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do deny the 2 requests that were denied by the auditors. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Diana. Appreciate your work. Thank
Have a
you.
nice evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Please stay and enjoy it with us.
Too exciting.
Yeah. All right, we could go on to E, yeah, and approve the 2023 Cache County Council meeting schedule and county offices holiday schedule. Everyone have a chance to look at that?
Yeah, there's too many meetings, so.
Y'all let me know. I can put you on the hook for whatever you need.
It's interesting,
I
Christmas
had a
Eve
concern
observed.
though, had a concern, I was worried about Gina and Paul, if January 10th would interfere with their schedules.
Jeez, I don't know about that. That's a hard one.
Oh, dear. All
I
right.
think it's interesting, December 22nd, Friday, will be Christmas Eve observed next year.
Wow.
Yeah, that just sounds really funny.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
4-day weekend,
Woo-hoo.
yeah, so.
All right. Any concerns about any on the schedule?
I make a motion to approve the Cache County Council meeting schedule and the county offices holiday schedule as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the annual Cache County Council meeting and county offices holiday schedule. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, what else could we look at before 6 o'clock?
Do other business?
Yeah, we can go with other business here. Okay, we have the UAC Annual Conference, that's next week. And we need to give a thanks of appreciation to Janine for making all the arrangements for us, for our rooms and everything else down there. So thank you, Janine. Pardon me?
I was just saying, Jeannie, you got your extra day.
Okay, extra room for Gina. Do we have a schedule, Janine?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll send those all out to you.
awesome. And where are we staying?
It's the Abbey Inn.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, I love
Okay,
that place.
okay, great. So thank you.
Right down on Main Street. Or Bluff Street.
Hyatt Place was
Bluffs.
Oh, that's a great place to
Yeah.
stay.
Very good. Thank you so much. And are all these names here? Everyone's still going? Okay, looks like it. Awesome. Oh, yes, the Extension Office Chili Cook-Off. That's going to be in our next meeting here in the council chambers.
They're gonna name that after Nolan.
Yeah,
Just thinking of a reason to be gone.
Nolan. Okay, they are going to handle a little bit different, just so you know. They want the recipe. They are going to prepare it.
Oh, interesting.
And then the employees are going to test it.
Ooh, fun.
So you don't even have to test it, Nolan.
Employees will come up with the 4 top.
My schedule just opened up.
But you will test the 4 top ones.
It's getting increasingly bad.
But they want the recipes by November 11th, correct? So if you want to enter that, have your recipe to the USU Extension Office by November 11th. Okay, very good. The Employee Christmas Dinner, that's for all of Cache County employees. Thursday, December 1st, coming up very quickly at the Cache County Events Center.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure, go ahead.
That's the first Thursday of a month, so isn't that P and Z, and that involves some? So here we hit that again, and we did that before on the P and Z group. I don't know who's not thinking of the P and Z when we put these things down, so. Granted, that doesn't hit a lot, but
So does their meeting,
it's on the first Thursday of every month. So we had a party here just not too long ago that hit the P and Z. Now we're doing this again.
What time do they meet?
yeah, what time do they?
5:30.
5:30, and this, do you know what time this is at?
Probably 6.
6. Is it at 6, Amy?
Can we run them some dinner? Yes, like we do for our deputies? Yes. Okay.
Will that be okay?
There was talk
Nolan?
to try and see if we could change the P&Z meeting, but I don't know where that went.
Would they be willing to change, Nolan, or December's a hard month to try to get to change anything? Can they,
I was wondering why they couldn't do it a night earlier, but I don't know.
where do they meet at?
Here,
Right here.
right here.
Could they,
It's just, this is the second one this year
Yeah.
that we've scattered them saying too bad.
as part of their meeting, can they come to the dinner and pick up a dinner and then come back?
It's a public meeting, so I doubt it.
Oh, okay.
But we could,
Maybe we as council members could bring them dinner.
I think we'll just get
During the speech,
an
I'll run
Uber
the dinners
delivery
over
brought
to-
here from where we want, so charge it. I don't know, I'm just voting for him.
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate that, yeah. That's awesome. We'll figure something out as a
somebody
council.
can bring him something and we can help.
Yeah,
I'm happy to
we'd be,
bring
good.
them
I'd be
something.
happy to help on it.
Absolutely. I'd be tickled.
Okay, thanks, thank you. All right, very good. 6 o'clock right on the dot. Woo-hoo, okay. Let's go into our public hearing. It's on regarding Resolution 2022-30, resolution adopting the 2023 Cache County budget. And we open this public hearing. Anyone out there like to come and address this issue?
Move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing on Resolution 2022-30, adopting a resolution adopting the 2023 Cache County budget. All right. Moving, what's that? Okay. So now are we going to vote on this budget?
Or just to close the hearing. Well, I've got to vote to close the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close this public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, moving on to pending action, Resolution 2022-27, amending the 2022 Cache County budget.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make an amendment to that budget.
Okay,
I would like to add $10,000 from the ARPA funding for emergencies to the victim services. My understanding is that ARPA does, that's a qualifying thing, aid to households facing food, housing, or other financial insecurities, assistance to households for rent, mortgage, or utility assistance allowed under the ARPA.
Okay. Anybody in agreement with that?
If it's allowed by ARPA, I'm cool with that.
Okay, so is that a second? Or to the motion?
We can
Was
move
that a
that into
motion?
a
That was a
second.
motion, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It's moved and seconded that we amend the Cache County budget to add $10,000 from the ARPA funds to victim services. All in,
And to say if that's a doable, that should be, shouldn't it? Okay.
okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Any other amendments or anything that anyone else wanted
Was
to
that
add?
the only amendment to the 2022 budget for this resolution?
Didn't we remove a couple things?
Yeah,
We removed number 4, the space needs analysis, and
correct.
number 2, the county council COLA. Right? Is that right? Number 3's already been approved. And number 3's already been approved.
So that, this resolution then would remove those items? That's all it?
It's already taken up.
Voted on those, and I haven't noticed them. If there was any further changes to the amendment, I'm waiting for that tonight, so then you pass the whole thing with having updated on.
Could I make a change to an account? Item number 24 for the purchase of drop boxes. Rather than having that money go into material supplies and services, can we have that go into non-capitalized equipment? I'd love to be able to just clean that department up a little bit.
I'll second that motion.
I think the drop boxes at the price that it looks like they cost should be non-capitalized equipment rather than material supplies and services. So if we could just change that.
What page you on?
Page 7 of 39, item number 24. We're taking some money out of part-time employees, moving it into material supplies and services for purchase of drop boxes, but that particular department has everything lumped in material supplies and services, and I'd like to start seeing that outlined a lot better.
I'm sorry again, Paul, what number
Page
was?
7 of 39.
Okay, 7, okay, thank you.
24. Can
Number
be
24.
Okay,
item
thanks.
number 24. So whatever, I'm sorry, I don't have the expenditure account number, but there is a non-capitalized equipment number. Cameron, do you have that by chance? 251. So instead of having it be 100-4170-200, we could leave that money in there, but have it be 100-4170-251.
Okay,
And Cameron, is there one for postage as well in that department?
There's not an active one, I'm not sure, but we can put one in, usually that's a 520.
520. So would it be easy to say, because we've got money going in, how hard is that during the course of the year? If they've just been using one account to run everything through, they're asking for $10,000 for mailing costs? Could we put that into postage and have them pull it from that?
Yeah, that would,
Current year?
that would be easy,
Okay,
we can do that.
so let me restate everything.
okay.
I would make a motion that on item number 24, rather than that money going into material supplies and services, we have that $15,000 going into non-capitalized equipment. And on item number 25, rather than $10,000 going into material supplies and services, we put that into postage for the mailing costs.
I'll still second that.
Okay, very good. Been moved and seconded that, Okay, let's see if I can get this right. On item 24, the $15,000 for material supplies and services, go where, Paul? I'm sorry.
Non-capitalized.
Non-capitalized equipment. Item 25, the $10,000 be taken from material supplies and services to postage.
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. Anything else anyone would like to look at?
Madam Chair, I will move that we approve Resolution 2022-27, amending the 2022 Cache County budget as amended.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2022-27, amending the 2022 Cache County budget as amended. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Madam Chair, I'd also move that the part of this resolution titled Budget Amendment Account Detail be included with the resolution and in the minutes.
okay, very good.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that this resolution and amendments be included in the minutes of the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to 10B, Resolution 2022-28, a resolution establishing county policy on supporting local nonprofit organizations.
So where we talked about this last time, and then the council, or you wanted to make that for 501c3.
Correct.
So I added that in red to an amended resolution. But also believe that our county attorney has some things he wants to say about this.
Right.
So one concern that I've had is just the structure of this. We may be liable for accusations of viewpoint discrimination if we're funding some nonprofits, another nonprofit, 501c3, say some nonprofit supports Satanism or something. So my suggestion is we maybe go back to the drawing board a little bit. So maybe we narrow what type of services and maybe talk about, instead of just have a funding mechanism such as a grant that would need to be applied for and need to meet certain conditions that the council could set. And we could be a little bit more narrow on the type of services we want to get into. Because I think there's some things that the government wants to stay away from completely. So we could say this goes towards, we're setting aside money towards social services, and these are the requirements that you need to meet as an organization, and you need to have this type of plan to submit to us for the grant. I think that would help limit some of our liability there to say, well, there's viewpoint discrimination going on from Cache County because they gave money to this organization and not to us, and the only reason is because they don't agree with our point of view on this.
So everybody's held to the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, I like that idea.
I think that's a good suggestion, because really what we're trying to do is not have the county duplicate the services. And I think you probably said the key words there, right, are social services. We've got some great nonprofits, just somebody like the food bank or CAPS, or things that we don't want to duplicate what they're doing. But we'd love to be able to support them, and rather than have it be any nonprofit, say it's those type of things that have a mission to serve populations in the county that are either at risk or things like that.
Good.
So I'd be supportive of that.
All right.
Gina, you did a great job on this.
Yeah, you did. That was great.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great.
So would it be, council be agreeable to me and Paul, because this was Paul's idea, just talk with your office, you or Taylor, and reformat it again?
Yeah, and I'm happy to help with this.
Okay,
Awesome.
We can do that pretty quick.
yeah,
I
okay.
think Taylor's.
So do we need a motion to do anything with this other than move it to the next?
Let's just move it to the next
Okay.
meeting, and we'll amend it again and fix it.
Okay,
Some
great.
adult supervision from Dane and Taylor.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, moving on to 11A, initial proposals for consideration of action. Ordinance 2022-32, an ordinance amending the Organic Act for the Government of Cache County and Cache County Code to clarify the council's consent authority to appoint, suspend, and remove directors of county departments. We have information that's been provided to us on that.
So, would you like me to speak to this?
Please do.
So, this came out of looking at the council's appointment authority, way back, I think 2019, when we were first looking at the idea of having like a manager for the county, and that kind of morphed into the deputy executive. So this is something that I've been trying to get clarified for quite some time, and worked on it in policy committee and so forth. And as I continue to study this and look at it, what I realized is in our Organic Act, and for those of you not familiar with that, that's the founding document that lets us change to an optional form of government. Under state law, what you have to do is have a commission unless you have an optional form of government plan. And Cache was the first to change in the mid-1980s to the council and executive form. So this is the Organic Act is that document, that founding document that lets us change. It's amendable by 5 votes of the county council. And so what I found in there that I found interesting is that it says that except where otherwise provided in this article or by the county council, and I apologize, when I made this a PDF, I didn't notice it messed up some of the way this was written. The county executive shall appoint all officers and heads of departments upon the advice and consent of the county council. But the key factor in there is where it says, or by the county council. I believe that gives the county council the power to change that, because where it says except where otherwise provided in this article, if you go through and look at that Article 5, in there it talks about how the executive cannot suspend or remove the elected officers of the county, which is totally logical, right? Mm-hmm. But I believe that gives us power, and I further believe that is backed up by Title 17, Chapter 53, Section 3026 of Utah Code, which recognizes the appointment authority of a county legislative body, because it says that the county, and this is under the county, what the county executive can do, it says that the county executive shall, except as otherwise vested in the county legislative body by state law or by the optional plan of county government, appoint, suspend, and remove directors of all county departments. And so that section of code was put into place in the year 2000, just right the year before. Remember how we talked about appointment power of the council, the legislative intent the following year, having to do with boards and commissions, and that specifically allowed the council to determine what boards and commissions would, how that appointment power would be used. So to me, that's a consistent thing where the state legislature was recognizing the ability of the county council to have the suspension and removal be with and upon the advice and consent of the council. And so this is what I'm putting, I wanted to bring this forward today. I was hoping today is like a neutral day. Anyway, it seems to me that if the county council has to give its permission for department heads to be suspended or removed, that's going to strengthen the ability of those department heads to do their jobs and to have accountability to a wider group and to the public, really, because we represent the public, and rather than having it just be one person, and I think that will strengthen the ability of them to get their jobs done and for people to feel good about it and have an increased confidence in county government. So that is why I'm bringing this forward. Wanted to bring this to your attention today. And I've talked to Dane about it, and I'm gonna give him some more information so he can, give his advice on it, being new, so.
And I just say, whenever we're talking about amending the Organic Act, I want to make sure we give you all the information we can so you make an informed decision, because that's like amending the county's constitution. So I appreciate you giving me some more time to get caught up, to bring me the information you have, and I'm happy to this next week sit down and we can talk through that. And I've had Taylor start doing some research to help us with that.
Yeah.
I like this because we ran into this in a department head for director of the planning and zoning, director of development services. So there was hesitancy on the applicant. So I like that. And then back to the boards and commissions. I really think the council ought to have more say on boards and commissions as this goes forward, because it says in our policies, council approve those names on there. And we haven't had that opportunity.
Right.
So
I think this is important.
I do too.
I would concur. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the council to have to give advice and consent on appointment and yet not have to give advice and consent on dismissal at the same time. That just seems at cross purposes. So I like this and appreciate the county attorney looking into it and making sure that that's right. But I think I see everybody up here, there's your 5 votes for sure, and once we get Gordon and Dave here, I think the council's fully supportive of something like this.
Well, I will talk with Dane and Taylor a little more and bring this back next time.
I do have a question, because I'm reading here, the Organic Act, if we change it, it takes 5 council members, right? But here inside, it's only down to 4 if we're doing a department head. Is that correct?
Right, to approve a department head is only 4, but to change the Organic Act, it takes 5 votes.
Okay.
It's a 2/3 vote of the entire body.
And that's a lot more significant action.
Okay, just wanted to clear in my mind.
Very good. Thank you, Gina, for working on that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we have some major concerns with this, but we don't need to talk about them now. We can share those with the council members as we go, and or at the next meeting, or individually, personally, whatever you prefer.
Okay, very good. All right. 11B, Resolution 2022-30, a resolution adopting the 2023 Cache County budget.
Well, I think we're going to take probably a lot of time on this, and we won't resolve it all in one meeting.
I agree. I still have some questions.
Yeah, and I think that I'd like to approach this like we have that 2022 budget that we just did, and we probably should make some specific motions on specific parts of the budget so that it's abundantly clear what the council's wanting to do with their particular budget. So if y'all are amenable to that process, I'd make at least one motion that we already discussed to make that portion of the budget clear. And that would be, let me grab my notes here. In economic development, I just want to make a motion on that particular piece of the budget. I think it was page 10. We have, I want to just outline a little bit of history. Back in 2020, on January 13th, we scheduled a workshop to review the economic development strategic plan. February 10th, we had a workshop again to review it. May 24th, 2020, we created the Cache County Economic Development Advisory Board. June 8th of 2020, we made the appointments to that board and came up with a strategic plan. June 22nd of 20, we approved that plan. July 13th, we approved an amended plan. August 24th, we talked about creating the position of Economic Development Director. September 18th, we had an update on that from the county executive, Craig Butters at the time. And then December 7th of 2020, we had the Economic Development Director hired. That process took us pretty much through the entirety of 2020, and it was based on a lot of the funding that came from the state. The state's changing their funding, and we've been working on that in a lot of 2022 now. And as Carl talked about in a couple prior meetings, we have now created a position in the Bear River Association of Governments that would be an economic development department that creates the economic development director there. We voted and basically would like to send some funds over to Bear River Association of Governments to have the economic development director there be an employee of BRAG. And that would be really similar to how we do things for USU Extension right now. I mean, we send Utah State some money. Utah State hires the employees. JD is a Utah State employee, and then they do services on behalf of the county. We'd be doing that same thing here. So I give you that history to basically say we have a lot of accounts in the Economic Development Director. So my motion would be this, so it's very clear. Number one, this will be a reduction in force for the county, that we are eliminating the Economic Development Director position at Cache County. That position we will then utilize the services of BRAG, so we will create a line item to send $150,000 over to BRAG to fund that position. And it would be, Cameron, if you'll come up here, I want to ask you a question so that I can understand what the best way to fund that particular line item would be. Is it a transfer of funds to another department? How would you suggest doing that?
So where BRAG is a completely separate entity, it can remain an expense account. We could leave that in our economic development department. We have a special grant projects account. It could come from there. We could create an account that says contract with BRAG if you want something to that effect. But it could stay in that economic development department.
You said special?
A special grant expense, or special grant projects is what we have. Right now, that's account 490 in that department.
Carl, you've been in on these. How would you like to see that?
Well, I think that makes sense. I mean, we're still budgeting for economic director. It's just that now we are helping to fund a regional economic development director rather than one specifically for Cache County. And so, I mean, we still have him for Cache County, but his role is expanded to cover the whole region. And as we talked about in our BRAG meeting, it makes sense because as we work together as a region, we'll have more success in dealing with the challenges of economic development, which go beyond attracting businesses to the area, but because each county has their own strengths. Box Elder County has the transportation; they have I-15. Cache County has strengths in the infrastructure we have and enjoy with the university and with the other high-tech things that are part of our economy. And then Rich County is more focused on the recreational side of things. And so looking at this from a regional basis benefits all of us together. And as we work to improve Highway 30 and improve the transportation corridors between counties, it's going to be, I think, a huge benefit to our county. And so, if that's the best way to do it, Cameron, I'm fine with that. We also, I don't know if we need to put in the budget item, a hard asset transfer, because, Sean's been using a county vehicle that he will need to still have in order to fulfill his functions. And, how do we move a hard asset like that?
We could allow, well, I don't know, that maybe is a risk management question, if we allowed use of a vehicle to a non-county employee. If we wanted to transfer the vehicle to Bragg ownership, then that would become just something that we surplused out and Bragg would have to pick it up.
Okay.
Again, where they're completely separate entities, there's not a way for me to just directly make that happen. It would be treated as just any other type of a transaction with any other company.
If we would go to our lease policy, we talked about it last time, we wouldn't have to worry about an asset transfer, hard asset. We could just say, okay, this one's done, assume a lease through Bragg or whatever else.
Yeah.
So,
But the value, well,
Could I? So Cameron, on that, if we could, I think we'll table that piece, just to look at the, grant to see if some of those funds or whatever, we've surplused it out. We can send some of those funds over to Bragg, so that when we surplused it, they could buy it in surplus. I don't know if that would.
and I don't know if we had a specific vehicle in mind, if it was something that you wanted to, I mean, would you want that to be part of the 150,000 that goes to Bragg, or it would be in addition to?
I don't know, because we're utilizing the $200,000 of the grant money to do this year. So I don't know if that particular piece of it would apply to that. So let's look at that and see how we're funding it.
we could make it a snowplow, so as he travels to Rich, he plows the road on his way over and back.
Top of the canyon.
So my question would be, if we're going to leave an economic development department, we should probably write into ordinance that all the functions of it are transferred to Bragg, so that it's very clear that nobody else is added to that department as an employee without council approval.
That's a good idea.
And we mentioned a contract. Is legal going to draw up the contract for us?
Yeah, we can do that.
Because I think we need that really hard with the contract.
Okay. So I think from a budget standpoint then, I mean, we have the truck we can do. We have the agreement with Bragg that I think we could spin up pretty quick. But so my motion would be this, that I would move.
Let me,
Oh,
is 150,000 sufficient?
I think based on the discussion and the vote that we took at Bragg, which, by the way, was, the motion was made by the county executive, we have this budget as far as the budget the Bragg set up.
And the budget was?
And the budget was showing, and I built in a little bit extra for this, but the budget was essentially $147,702 from Cache County.
Okay.
So I said 150 would give us that. So I guess my motion would be on this budget year that we take all of the amounts outlined that total $292,200 for economic development, and we move that into one line item. And Cameron, if I hear what you're saying, we'll say it's called special grant projects.
Yeah, we have.
And we'll just fund that at $200,000. That equals the amount of grant money that we're getting from the state.
Yeah.
Part of this motion is we are going to have a reduction in force for the Economic Development Department. So we will no longer have an Economic Development Director. So of that 200,000, 150,000 is going to Bragg, and then we have 50,000 that we can utilize for other economic development projects, but not employees. That would be my motion for this budget.
Good luck restating that, Barbara, but I'll second it.
And I can restate it for you.
I just had a comment about the vehicle. I don't know where the impression was held that that vehicle was for economic development. It used to be Bryce's car or truck, and it just is part of our pool vehicles that we let the whole county use. And so,
Well, what do you drive then if you're not driving Bryce's old vehicle?
my own car,
Your own car, not a
Yeah.
county vehicle?
no,
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
not currently. I guess I could use one if I need one for county purposes, but
Okay,
I don't think it's.
That's something I didn't.
yeah,
Thank you.
all right. Yes, please.
Sean Milne, your momentary Economic Development Director. As you prepare your budget for next year, I just want you to keep in mind that there are some unexpended funds for this year that must flow over. So of a $200,000 receipt line item being a great technicality for the grant funding that would come in for 2023's intentions, and then that 200,000 being parsed as you've discussed, meaning you would retain 50,000 of that for Cache County specific that would not be for the benefit of the other two partner counties. You similarly have Part A and Part B unspent monies that are expected to not be spent this calendar year that ought to flow in as well. Tonight, I'm not prepared to think about what some of the Part A monies might be, but I'd, with your direction, work with Cameron to do so, to create that kind of finality. But absolutely, I believe the majority of 42,000 in Part B grant money and the 40% match that was attributed from the general fund, or 28,000, most of that will be unspent this year. I'm aware of two possible utilizations of that money that might go out before the end of the calendar year, but it's really dependent upon other parties to dictate the timing. So we would just want to make sure that we reflect that special grant projects, because they are grant monies. And so that would be an appropriate title, but we want to make sure that those monies flow over, both your 40% match required as well as those unspent monies, just to keep that in mind.
So that's from this current calendar year, we just be moving that money over into 2023. Once we get exactly what those are, we could then say it's coming into the 2023 budget, and it was based on the 2022 budget, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay.
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 Okay, thank
And
you,
we can-
Sean.
We can amend it next time with those.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
In discussions with Sean and Cameron today, we talked about, the Cameron just said, it's most likely that those amounts, to get them exact, he'll know about them by the end of the year and it could come before the council because of the change in where the money's going. And the council could make an adjustment to that when he knows better the actual amount. So anyway, so Cameron can obviously, if you have questions about that, we can answer about, like, does it need to happen now, next week, 2 weeks, or like January or something like that, but yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted you to know.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
And Paul, if you want to get with me and Taylor to work out the details of that contract, and if there's someone we need to work with at Bragg.
We can do that. And we don't have, we avail ourselves of Bragg services, and we have a governing board and things, so I can call Roger, and I'll call a couple of the other commissioners, and Box Elder and Rich. I think we've pretty much have a good structure. I don't know how detailed it needs to be.
Yeah.
So,
I guess
because we're,
just to set a scope of service, I think is, and
We can
the
get that
financial part, it'll be pretty simple to put together.
we'll have that by
Awesome.
the next council meeting, for sure.
And an ordinance, do you want me to write up something and then just send it to you guys and have you
That'd be great.
make sure it looks good and?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Very
you wanna
good. So are we
restate it?
going, restate that,
Okay,
Paul.
so I'll restate it for you, Barbara. My
Thank you.
motion is we make a reduction in force for the Economic Development Department. So we no longer have a Economic Development Director employed by the county. And as a result, we're gonna take this budget that we currently have, $292,200. We're gonna reduce that budget to $200,000. currently to equal the amount that we're receiving in 2023 from the state of Utah. $150,000 of that is going to be going to Bragg for economic development. Sean will be there as the economic development director there for a regional basis.
Regional,
And we'll
okay.
avail ourselves of his services there. We'll have additional $50,000 that we will use for Cache County specific economic development projects, not
With no
employees.
employees.
With no employees. That's the motion.
All right, thank you. Motion, do I have a second on that motion?
Still a second.
Still a second, all right. I'm going to say what Paul said. Okay? Because I don't know if I can go, but I'll try it. Okay, we are going to do a there's the 292,200. We're going to reduce that to 200,000. 150,000 of that will go to Bragg to move our current economic director over to Bragg. 50,000 of it will stay here to use for economic development projects, not hiring employees. Did I, as a reduction in force. Did I get that correct? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Good. All right. Okay, where were we here?
Now we just go with the rest of the budget. I just figured we were gonna have some complications on it, so.
Okay.
One that was gonna be a big one.
All right, do we have any other changes that we need to look at? That anyone's,
Cameron sent us those
Okay.
ones that we talked about.
all right. So are we going to move the adoption of the Cache County budget to our next meeting of the 2023 Cache County budget?
I would prefer that.
Okay, so would I. All right,
Give us a little more time.
okay.
Does anybody have any questions? The other thing, Cameron, thank you for sending in this, the tentative budget changes that you did earlier today. It looks like we have that payoff of the bond is now out of the budget. That's number one, it looked like. Number two, it looks like we have figured out a way to fund veteran services for Bragg.
Okay.
We won't need really a memorandum of understanding or a contract for those services, will we, Dan?
We had a little bit of, it seems like there was a little bit of discussion.
I think if we're going through, that was a part that I didn't remember from the council meeting, because if it's going through Bragg, we're providing those to Bragg. That's really, that's not the same as the other issue that we were talking about earlier, where we're picking and choosing which nonprofits we're going to. We're giving money to Bragg that they're using to fund the veterans assistance, which
Right.
It's a little bit of a different how that money's flowing. I don't have the concerns that I had if
Okay.
this was just the county picking a nonprofit we're sending
Okay.
money to.
And Carl, that's what you wanted done,
She
correct?
sent us an email explaining that.
Exactly, yeah, okay.
The
So I think
person at Bragg, I forgot her name.
number three, thank you for taking out $200,000 of building permits. I think that's one thing that, where we're talking about the cost of housing, I don't know, I've seen ranges, and Sean, you can help me out on this. The cost of housing to build a house is 30-40% based on regulations and permit fees and things. So I think anything that we can do that's in our control is great, so reducing building permit fees is fantastic. Number four, sales tax revenues, are we taking that out, Cameron, or do we want to leave that alone and just know that we might have fund balance that next year's council needs to be aware they might need to pull from?
Yeah, so this one was to address some of those concerns that were stated about the sales tax forecast. And this, I was a little vague on exactly how far that maybe wanted to move. I'm actually, this is, I'm okay with this, or I'm okay leaving this out. What would happen if we overestimate our sales tax revenue in terms of $100,000 or $200,000 is if that revenue doesn't materialize by default, and it will eat into the fund balance. Your expenses would theoretically still exist, and you don't have revenue for it, so it will eat at your fund balance. If we change it right now, we're substantively doing the same thing. We're going to say, let's just reduce the revenue estimate right now and appropriate fund balance. So to me, it's kind of sixes. We make a good faith estimate on what those sales taxes could be. Most often, we are under the revenue. In other words, is higher than what we estimate. A little bit. Next year is going to be a little bit harder to predict for sure. I openly would acknowledge that. But to me, it's close enough that either way, I think would be fine. That's my opinion.
Cameron has a sensible approach to it, I think. I mean, if we end up having to eat into fund balance next year because they don't materialize, it's sixes. We either eat into them right now or we eat into them later. And historically, we've always under budgeted.
Right. Now, if I felt like we were off $1 million, then I think a cut right now would be merit for sure. But being within a little bit, I think it's okay. But I certainly defer to that.
Something about that, and I understand what you're saying about it being sixes. To me, it's not, because if you go ahead and you go ahead with a higher tax revenue that you think you're going to get, you may end up spending the fund balance on something else. Whereas if you just take it out of fund balance in the first place, and then any extra revenue that you get, then you could use for, then that's a bonus, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. And I think I do understand and appreciate what you're saying. I think I would share that very same concern if we had a much smaller fund balance and if these were larger variances. But where it is right now, I still would stand by. For me, it's sixes, but I defer to you how you would see that.
And so I appreciate you looking at that. I think that's one for me as I look at it, and especially given the constricted timing we have this year, that it's going to be hard, right? I'd love to take it down and then go to the different departments and figure out how to pull some of that money out. But we've got a very limited amount of time that we normally could have talked about this and have talked about it historically. So probably we just leave that. So if we just left it knowing that we're going to possibly have to draw from fund balance, we wouldn't have to do number 4. Is that just a suggestion right now?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I put this on here based on the comments from our meeting last week.
Okay. And then since Gordon's not here, I'll commend you for having the bee inspection and the soil conservation on here.
That one was very straightforward, and
he was pretty excited about it.
I'm glad.
Well, to your point, it sounds like you were thinking of maybe asking departments to cut their budget by a percentage, but because we're on such a short timeline, we don't have really the ability for them to go in, really study that, and figure out where to cut. Is that what you're saying? I would concur with that.
Did we save money on the roads?
Because that would be the best way to do it.
Okay, good deal.
And then I just want to go over number 6. We had Devron come in earlier on those seasonal employee funding, and I thought he did a great job in his presentation.
Yeah.
And we appreciated Devron doing that. This fund thing, right, Cameron? Do we have an additional, number 7, it looks like we've got some additional funding for chip and seal and some capitalized equipment to help in the roads? Is that, am I seeing that?
No, let me be clear on number 6. So are you wanting to leave that, or are you saying he's?
I think we're wanting to leave that, right? Does anybody have any concerns with that after?
I'm okay with leaving it, yes.
I'm okay with leaving it now that I understand it.
Leaving it in the budget, meaning removing this from the amendment?
Rather
Yeah,
than removing
okay.
it.
Correct.
This shows it's taken out, and we don't want to take it out.
Right. Okay, so we'll remove that from this amendment. On number 7, this is simply restoring back the cuts that were made to the road department in response to the questions from before. So the only thing, there's not new revenue. This is putting back an appropriation of fund balance to fund those items. And so some of it is towards the chip seal program, other it's equipment, but it's restoring a use of fund balance.
Okay.
Awesome, okay.
So perfect. So it looks like when we come back next week, we're going to strike number 6. We're going to strike number 4. And
We need to add an increase in pay to our Planning and Zoning Commission, but I don't know what that number is. Maybe, Nolan, you could help with that.
Well, we decided last week it was pretty flippin' low at $15 a meeting, so.
Mhm.
And that's been that way for,
Years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get them up to.
my other question
at
was,
50,
is
yeah.
we got in our county council budget, the policy analyst, is that budgeted in there?
Yes,
Yeah.
So
yes.
I'm just hoping I mean, Paul's point, we can't very much ask to cut, but we're gonna need to. I mean, but I don't know how we do that. I would like to see, I mean, as you look at like the clerk, you look at the recorder, and you look at municipal services, any of those things that we're doing public service to, the sheriff's office and that, I don't want to see cuts to. But how we do the planning and zoning, and I don't know, it would be interesting if, and I don't know if Amy would be the person, if what we compare other counties, what they're doing to their P and Z.
We certainly could do that. I remember a comment, maybe not last week, but the week before, that John Luthi had made that the P&Z committee is paid per diem, and so that may be set by some type of state law, maybe. I haven't looked into that, but I just remember that comment, so I just want to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're looking at the right place and doing the right thing. So maybe the attorney's office could help point us in that right direction.
Madam Chair, my memory of that comment from John was that he was concerned that we couldn't give them more than that for some reason. I think the current general policy for per diem in the county is $26 for dinner. We could start there.
That's saying they're double what they're getting.
Right, but if we can pay them more and justify it, according to whatever concerns John and maybe Dean might have, I'd say we should try.
I think we should.
Amy, do we have a policy on that? No per diem policy for, I mean, nothing in our policy manual, I cannot remember reading anything about planning and zoning.
So the Planning and Zoning Committee they're not employees, so there wouldn't be anything in our Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual. But if there was anything, I would maybe point you to the code, but I'm not familiar with that, where that's not my purview.
So, Dane, can you look at that for us?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we'll see. But I think, Cameron, for budgeting purposes, sounds like in most of our discussions, am I correct in thinking that we would like to move that to maybe $50 a meeting?
That's
for
what
the-
we, yeah,
For the
yes.
planning and zoning? And then we'll just figure out, does it need to be I mean, per diem would probably mess up employee per diem, but however we need to do that, just budget-wise, moving it from 15 to 50.
So if I can just speak up, I don't have the legal basis, but just looking at some other counties and municipalities, it looks like they're going, I see 45 and 55. So I think I need to find the legal basis for that, but where other people are doing that, I feel comfortable that we're gonna, however we need to structure it, there'll be a way to up that more than $15.
Cool.
And Barbara, if you'll indulge me one more.
Go for it.
So I can go out with a bang. Cameron, can you add in, just for the budget, so this council can look at it, another $15,000 for each council member per year, and increase the salary of the county council? And I think I can make this, because I spent 4 years not voting for it. This council's gonna need to be much more, they have put in yeoman's work. And at 15,000 more, we're still the lowest paid county in Utah.
What's in your Diet Coke tonight?
They need to do a lot of work to get paid, so build that into the budget. I'd love to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
You know what, I could second that too, because I won't be here, but I want the next council to be able to get paid.
I'll vote against.
Well, you need to, Carl. You can't vote for your own raise. That's why I'm making it. Me and Gina and Gordon are getting out of here, but we think it's more than well worth it.
I still have a question on the elections budget, and I apologize, I forgot to bring my budget, so I can't talk details, but I still have questions about, yes, he sent us an email, but it was confusing to me because it
Yeah.
seems to me like we should have the contracts in place and know a dollar amount per ballot as others do, and instead of putting county money in the budget, so I'll have to see if I can find out more information on
Yeah,
that.
I was
Doesn't
kind
make
of,
sense
I
to
was
me.
confused.
I talked with him today, and he should come here and answer, maybe like Devron did, but he said there's a state law, and this is part of the contracting with the municipalities
Yeah.
going forward, that he cannot charge more than what the ballot would be, but he can be lower. So he said he's factoring that into there for what he's doing next year for municipal elections in other cities that they've contracted with. And so he says he'll get some back, but
That's interesting, because I talked to Ryan, I forgot his last name, with the Lieutenant Governor's office 2 days ago, and asked him about how that worked. Municipal contracts, they're not required. The cities don't have to go through the county clerk's office, but he said that the services that we provide as the county, it should pay for itself from those contracts. We shouldn't be having to pay anything to run municipal elections. It should be self-sustaining.
and he did answer that to the point that there was something the legislature was going to convene on that if that went further. So
I think he's really trying to make it a zero sum.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to criticize, I'm just trying to figure out how to work that in the budget, right?
and I'm going to bring up a point that will get me in trouble, but I would like to ask the executive office. Myself have noticed this, as well as some constituents, that when we have county meetings or different functions going on, different than like when the council is there, there are sometimes 2 or 3 from the executive's office that are attending these meetings. That seems to be overkill and costing the county a bit of money for that. I understand there are times that's needed, but I mean, we go back to previous executives and what was going on. They did not have that staff, and I think there should be an answer on that, because I don't see the reason sending 2 or 3 from the executive's office to some of these, and I'm going to call them shindigs or meetings or whatever else is out there. I think that's overkill. So as we're talking about the budget, as we're talking about policy analysts, that's what's been on my mind, and some people who have attended meetings are like, why do we have so many from the executive office at these functions?
I have heard similar comments made to myself as well.
So, something to think about, if you would, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, with that all in mind, we are going to move the adopting the Cache County budget to next meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
After chili? Something
After
to get
chili?
really hot about.
Quick, then.
All right, let's move on to Resolution 2022-31, a resolution amending the Cache County Corporation Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual regarding automatic enrollment into the Utah Retirement System 401K plan. Amy has some information for us on that.
I think that wins the award for longest title to a resolution.
Yes.
You did it.
That's right, that's right. So this has come from a recommendation from the Compensation Committee, and it's also recommended from the Utah Retirement System as an option that we do for our employees. It helps them to get their feet into the 401K system and help them to start building their retirement funds as they enjoy a career in public service. And so what this is stating is that upon hire that we would automatically put 5% of their gross salary into their 401K, and they do have the option to opt out of that. At this time, we are not recommending that there be a match from the county due to the budgetary restrictions that we're looking at, and so we wanted to be aware of that, but starting this with our employees and with those that will be newly hired in January.
How often do statements come from URS? Is it quarterly?
Yes.
So that touches close with the 90 days, because you get your paycheck and you're like, I go back to the Friends thing, who's FICA and why is he taking my money? So, and that's going to be the same thing when we talk about a deduction here. Some employees are not going to notice that until maybe they see a statement from the URS. Am I correct, or am I over?
Although they
Statement.
will have to sign an acknowledgement form that they understand that this is happening and
Then
that
it
what
seems
their
different
options
that we
are.
have to say that they got to have a 5%. If they sign an acknowledgement, they either check in or they check out on that, don't they?
They can opt out, yes.
Yeah, so we're saying there's a mandatory 5%, but if we've got a signed in or signed out, this seems to be a double backup, doesn't it?
I guess I don't understand your comment.
Well, if I'm an employee and I sign up and I get hired and I say, I did not want this, or I do want it, so you're saying if I do want it, it becomes an automatic 5, not what I choose.
So we start them with 5, but they can go in at any time and make an adjustment to that 401k. So they could go in the next week and make an adjustment and say, no, I want to do 0. And then the next week they could go in and say, this week I want to do 3%. We don't encourage that because it is an administrative nightmare on the back end, right? But they do have that option. It's online through their URS account. They can go in and make changes at any time.
So Amy, if they come in and they're hired, can they at that time say, no, I don't want to give 5%, I want to do 2? Do they have that option?
They would have to go into their URS account and make that change, yes.
Okay.
If they make no change, then it would be the 5%.
Okay.
So this is one of those nudge things, so to speak. If you look at it, you just say you're automatically in unless you take the effort to get yourself out of it,
Right.
which they have every opportunity to do if they'd like to.
Correct.
Okay, I'm for it.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Nolan. No.
Saving money is always good.
That's always good.
So I'll make a motion then that we waive the rules and approve, let's see, what are we, 2022-31?
I'll second that.
I'll let Barbara just repeat it. We'll be here for 20 minutes.
Okay, second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2022-31, a resolution amending the Cache County Corporation Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual regarding automatic enrollment into the Utah Retirement System 401k plan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There you go. All right, moving on. Let's go into council member reports. Nolan, we'll start with you.
I don't think I have any, so.
Okay. Paul?
Well, I said good things about Bart, and I just want to look around. Chief Hammer, Sean, Matt, Cameron, Amy, Sheriff Jensen. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much.
Terrell.
We have, Terrell, you were kind of hidden back there too, Terrell, thank you.
She was bending over.
Janine, Nate. Is he hiding too?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's hiding too.
This county has such wonderful employees, and I only have a few more times, but I'll say it every time. It has been an absolute privilege to learn from and be associated with the good people of this county. And what has been built here is unrivaled anywhere I've ever been, and I appreciate y'all very, very much. Thank you for putting up with me. Your lives are about to get a lot easier. But I appreciate you letting me be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Gina?
Well, I'll just ditto what Paul says. It's always stealing my thunder.
You can be first next time.
Okay. Ditto what Paul said. And then also, I had a question on our policy about the preparation of the agenda. Did we get that sent out to all the county, just emailed to all the county employees or officials so that they know what our new policy is?
That's a good point.
Can we do that? Janine, can you do that for us?
Thank you, Janine. Thanks.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Carl?
Nothing.
And I have nothing either. All right, we need a motion to go into our executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We need to say where it's at, don't we?
Okay, yes, thank you. We will go, it's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session, Utah Code 52-4-2051A, Utah Code 52-4-2051C, and we are convening in the council chambers, correct? Yes. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, let's go into it.